Check. Quick sound check. Can everybody hear me loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, check, sound check.
Sounds good to
How
me.
s- everything's good? We good to go?
Sounds like we're good to go. Welcome, everyone, to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I am Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. Coach Paul coming in a little hot. I will turn that down just a little bit. But how was your day today, Coach?
Um, I got chopped around a little bit. I lost well. Um, Crude oil chopped me up a little bit on some headline news.
Oh yeah,
Other than that, I controlled my beating, so to speak. How about yourself?
there you go. Decent day. Regardless of what happened on the charts, I found out that my finger is not broken, which is always good news. Just a bad jam, but we were talking in the green room, Coach. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to keep playing basketball. I had a back injury not that long ago, and then my finger now. Um, some golf clubs might
Oh,
be in my future.
expiration date coming?
I hope not. I hope not. Want to play as long as I can, but definitely don't want to be getting hurt while I'm doing so.
Yeah.
So maybe I can't attack the basket like I'm Russell Westbrook anymore. Um,
Just play in the senior league.
exactly. Uh, if this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Top Step Performance Coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Top Step since May of 2023. I have 4 decades of experience in futures market, 25 in just trading in the last, 25 years of trading and exclusively. I'm here to share my experiences and some knowledge and help you become a better trader.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. Let's look at what we have as far as news on the calendar. We didn't have much big red folder news. We had the U.S. housing starts come out. We had the Canadian CPI, which came out as well. Those really haven't been market moving events from my experience. I think what really moved the markets, Coach, was the threat of war uh, as far as news goes. We did have some saber rattling. Is that what they call it, right?
Yeah,
Um,
the big sabers, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. The so what the headline that came out was Putin uh, approving a nuclear doc- doctrine, approving updates to a nuclear doctrine. That was at 3:13 Eastern time this morning. And then there's another headline that comes out that says Ukraine attacked Russia at 4:16 Eastern time. And then we have 9:07 Eastern time. Russia's foreign minister says that Russia's position is that nuclear war won't happen. So I'm just calling out those times when we look at some of the equity markets, we can kind of kind of line up exactly when the headlines came out and the market movement. And then last one, 10:31 Eastern time, Iran agrees to stop producing near bomb grade uranium. Um, so just keep those times in mind. 3:13 Eastern, 4:16, 9:07, 10:31. And when we look at the charts, we'll take a look at that. But the big planned news, Coach, tomorrow we have Nvidia's earnings out after the close tomorrow. So markets waiting for that. Anything you got on the news, Coach?
Well, I guess that's the mother of all earnings reports once again. Uh, but, you know, just to review, if you're on days like when you see headlines like this, they can come out at any time. If you are not prepared, what I'm talking about is framing out your stop and putting them in as soon as you make the trade, you're very susceptible. Um, and I think this is only the beginning. So
Yeah. Have a stop.
Don't have a stop. Do not be sloppy. I can't say that enough.
It's a good point. Hogue was asking me, earlier today, when we have some of these headlines coming out, war headlines and things like that, potential escalations. Anytime you hear nuclear war, right, markets on edge, um, does that change your trading at all? For me, it doesn't, right? I'm going to take the same setups, and we're actually going to see some very technical setups playing out, regardless of what the headline said. And I think you just have to trade the same way. Of course, if you see thin order books and if for whatever reason there's a 15 tick spread in the Nasdaq, I'm probably not going to trade that. But otherwise, if it looks okay, I'm going to trade it. I'm just going to have a stop in and just be very vigilant about how I trade. Maybe if it's uncertain markets and I'm getting a lot of stop outs, then cut it. But I think and maybe just focusing on the technicals, kind of removed from hearing a headline and saying, "Oh man, that's going to keep me out of the market."
Well,
That's when we want to be in.
the question is, if you're, some of these headlines. I see Paul H just said, if I see a bright light, I hit the short button. Well, I don't know if can't make light of it. But once again, these, if you're trading, you cannot control headlines. You can control executing your plan. Inside of that plan, number one is risk management. If you're putting in orders and then waiting to see what happens without putting your stop in, you're ignoring the risk. So I'm just going to, that's the last time I'll say that today. But don't get in a rocket without a seatbelt, okay? Just don't fuck around.
There we go. All right. Let's look at the top percentage movers on the day to the downside. We had lean hogs down 0.63%, soybeans down 1.11%, and soybean oil down 1.6% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we have gold up 0.83%, live cattle up 1.08%, and copper, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, at 1.19%. To round out our big four, we already talked about gold. We have the NASDAQ up 0.65%, crude oil up 0.4%, and the S&Ps up 0.34%. Let's go to the equities. We'll start with the equities. And I am on a 30-minute chart, but I'm going to go out to a daily to start, Coach. We've been talking about this 50-day moving average. Markets trending up. Obviously, we had a little bit of a sell-off going into the end of last week. We closed under the 20 moving average, which is this yellow line here. Yesterday, we kind of traded inside Friday's range, right, to about half of it. And then this morning, negative news comes out. Hey, they're talking about nukes and all this other stuff. We pushed down into the 50-day moving average. We don't hit it. And again, leaning on the technicals. And, news is going to expedite moves a lot of the time. But it was a push into the 50-day moving average. The market held and continued to the upside.
Yeah, and finished over both of those moving averages.
Yes, it did.
And did it in a hurry. To me, it looked like there were resting orders down by the 50 moving average, because we just literally bounced. It didn't hit it to the tick, but
Close enough.
It's close enough. Almost like headlines come out just to buy them. I don't. But what I found impressive in that is that this is the correction we talk about, right back to the 50, 20 still over the 50, and within a couple hours we bounce off the 50, finish within ticks of the high of the day. Pretty solid action.
Yep. We'll go down to a 30-minute chart. We'll look at it on the 30, 200 moving average. That white line right there up at 20,815. So going into tomorrow, I'm going to be paying attention to that level. If I'm trading the NASDAQ, we know how much of a solid level that 200 moving average can be on the 30-minute chart, or really on any chart. Go to last night's open, and it was a pretty uneventful Asian session. I'll say it that way. Like we talked about, the first headline, war headline, came out around 3 a.m. Eastern time, and that's when we see the volume starting to pick up right into that London session. Outside of that, we did get I'm going to call this a C, maybe a C minus long signal up here. The overnight session, I think Dakota even talked about it, right? It's not much to do in that overnight session. Of course, our London friends come in, they start the party, and kind of sell us off here, or start the sell off at least. I really do like this bounce right back into 50% of this zone though, and rejecting off of there. But I personally did not look at the Nasdaq until the morning session. What about you, Coach, or really any of the
I
markets?
Yeah, I didn't look at the Nasdaq till the opening because it's kind of there was sloppy action last night.
Yeah.
I'm still on the buy side here.
Hmm.
I so I waited as about
Yeah.
as patiently as I can be.
Nice.
And I kind of kicking myself, going, "Oh, look at that! I could be short." But I don't really trade much um, of indices overnight.
Got you. Got you. Yeah, I think a lot of times we'll see the New York session present a decent enough opportunity that if you don't want to trade the overnight session, you don't have to. Again, here we have the London session sell off. If you were trading London, some really decent opportunity, it's a 200-point range. And then going into the morning, the New York session, we get some more of those headlines coming out. The markets start to drop, and in 57 minutes, we get a sell off of 250 points, right down to that 200 moving average. Sorry, the 50-day moving average, and an immediate bounce. When I see a move like this, Coach, and I was on fast markets today just for a couple minutes before I had to go run and get my finger checked out, but I got on the show saying, "Hey guys, I want to buy this," and the reason being, this to me was a news-driven headline. The and I don't trade news, but it was a news-driven headline. I'm still looking to the buy side in this market, and the headline that came out at the bottom negated what came out at the top before the sell-off. So for me, it's just like, okay, so I can just completely ignore whatever just happened, and this move, and it looks like the market has the potential to do so as well. And then I'm looking for, just a buy anywhere in this general area. It didn't give a great signal during the open of the New York session, but eventually, we see this consolidation start to kind of channel upwards. We're making higher lows here. We leave that 3-minute opening range and just took off to the upside.
Coach, on that low,
Hmm.
what time was that?
This is at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 a.m., 8 a.m. your time.
Okay, and is that a J trade there or a 3 bar reversal?
It is, yeah. I mean, we get high volume relative to, right. If we
The, high,
exclude
the
the
highest
volume there,
volume in the night, yeah,
highest volume of the night
on the lows.
on the lows, and a complete rejection. We hold 50% of it. It's a beautiful trade. Um,
And then we break the high of the highest volume and never came back. Why didn't I see that?
yeah, I wonder that myself sometimes. Why didn't I see that? Uh, it's a great trade. It is a great trade, and it's a scary one to take. Imagine buying after a 250-point move to the downside. It's like, okay, you're catching the knife, but sometimes the scariest trades are the clearest ones. I think um, when we talk about catching knives, if the knife is on the floor, it's okay to pick it up.
Okay. I
Right?
know. I've
If the
never. But here, what's really important is, isn't just because there was spikes in volume all the way.
Mhm,
It isn't like you just go by it's the failure, like you said, of the falling knife, and that bottom made that you know the largest volume. It still wasn't safe. But what
correct.
we're saying is the next bar after that was light buying. And think of it this way: the next one is light, uh, is heavy buying
Mhm,
with bigger volume that takes out the range of the heaviest selling.
correct.
That alone, if I was short, I got to cover.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed. And this is when that headline came out that said, Russian foreign minister says, "We're not going to nuclear war." Okay, we're good. Buy
okay.
programs back on again. Um, but coach, like you were saying, right? Because we see volume spikes all the way, right? So before we make this volume candle here, which ends up being the highest one, we had this one that ends up being the highest one. Now that's the highest volume. Now it's that one. So which one do we pick? And like you said, waiting for the candle close, you may sacrifice some trade location, but you get that added confirmation that the market is done selling. Because if I'm in a short, I want to see the market do exactly this, right? I wanted to see uh, volume continuing to build as we go lower. I don't want to see, that exhaustion print where, all of a sudden in a 1 minute candle, we get 20,000 contracts worth of volume. Cause at some point that's probably going to be the end of the move. But if the volume is, gradually building as we're going lower, that's telling me to stay in the trade. So, you could look at this pattern and say, oh, well, that's the highest volume. Let me trade that one. But we never got that close or even attempt
um,
to test the high of the candle.
and it's all selling. There's no buying.
Correct. 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 Yeah. Once we get that turn, it's added confirmation, higher probability trade. Any longs in this, this is trying to catch the knife, right? This is at least letting the knife bounce off the floor, right? You might be quick enough to catch it on a bounce. Um, if you got like Spider-Man reflexes or something. But but
You know what they say, man. He who catches falling knives have bloody hand.
that this is not a falling knife incident. My fingers here. I was not trying to catch a knife. I was trying to steal a ball from someone.
Did you
Once
steal it?
I did get the steal, but it was one of those where you steal it and then you just stop the play immediately because you messed something up. So it would, yeah, not good. Once we got back above VWAP, we kind of consolidated around VWAP for a little bit. Um, the first target that I was looking for on the long side, and I think I said it during fast markets as well, was 20,633.5. And that is settlement. So if you don't have those top step levels on your charts, go ahead and put them on there. It's this teal line that we have here, 20,633.5. That's the first target, conservative target. And then the ultimate target for the trade, long idea for me was this midnight Eastern time open, uh, which was at 20,680. We trade up there and just a really nice trend day. Not a lot of opportunity for shorts. Were some decent pullbacks, right, where it wasn't like that election day trend up, but buyers were in control for a lot of this. Anything else on the equities, coach?
Um, I'm good there. We
Awesome.
did we go through the S&P? How about the Russell? Just
Uh, let's take a look at it. Just on the daily chart on the S&Ps, we rejected similarly at that 50-day moving average, closed above the 20. Let's look at the Russell. Looks pretty strong also. A lot of these look exactly the same.
yeah, boy, I tell you what, that Russell
Mhm.
we break. we have the first buying. We break that high of last selling candle.
This one here.
Yeah, that's my target right now.
Nice. Nice. Looking at it on a 30-minute chart, we got that 200. This looks a lot like the Nasdaq chart. We got this 200 moving average right here. We've seen some explosive moves when the market kind of does this pinch, trades above the 200. And again, anything we talk about here is educational purposes only, not a suggestion to take a trade, but an interesting pattern to watch here. What happens at this 200 moving average? Do we see sellers step out of the way and give room for buyers to, or maybe sellers take some profits on their shorts and ignite a move to the upside? Looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Looks
All right.
pretty good.
What's our next venture?
Let's look at the metals. For the metals, I'm gonna go to a 4-up screen. To take all these drawings off of here first. All right, I'm gonna put gold up on the top left. Take the top step levels off. Gold on the top left. We're gonna put copper, which is my newest favorite metal, on the top right. Platinum on the bottom left, and go silver on the bottom right. So gold, copper, platinum, silver, all to me great markets to trade. Some present opportunities, earlier than others do. Uh, I initially and will look at kind of the same setup. And coach, if you see any other technical patterns or anything like that on any of these charts, point them out. I know we did talk
Sure.
about, we might see some of those. I just have the worst eye for them. So if you point them out, I'm going to be learning at the same time. So we have gold here from last night. Last night's open in gold.
Yeah, we found, it's interesting. There's no selling candles in there
No,
whatsoever. Um, what else is there to say? There were no sellers.
no, no,
I
no.
imagine we saw that big rally late yesterday, right? There's balance. It was right in. Also, look at once we broke through that balance level, just before it.
In gold up here.
Yeah, yesterday's close was at the last couple hours. Look at that.
Okay, yeah, this balance here.
Yeah, and once we traded over it,
Good night.
good night. Like you said, and it was sharp rally. Gave you a chance with VWAP a couple times, but nowhere did we see a strong reversal.
Nope.
We saw a sell off, but there were buyers all day long.
Agreed. Come on, stop doing that, please. I am just mapping out right now the opening with VWAP for each one of these markets. I actually did take and we're just looking for this urgency move. Clearly, it was urgent in gold. It looked like it was in copper as well, and this is just an example of sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. In platinum, sometimes the move is not there, and then in silver, maybe it's not as dramatic. Uh, I took it in copper. Um, when I saw the low of this 30-minute opening range holding right into slow markets time, um, took this long trade. Was happy that I trailed the market up because we can see what happened, right? Just because VWAP left the range to the upside, if we look on a higher time frame in copper, we were coming up to some resistance. So could I set my targets at these highs? I would have been right ultimately, but I don't get to choose how the market gets there. right? So before it went to what would be my eventual target, it probably would have stopped me out if I didn't trail once the market presented some profit to me. And I don't want to just take the trade off, but we got pretty close, right? We were, less than a 0.5% away from the profit target. Had a decent trade in the money. I'm going to take some profits off the table. Um, Happy I didn't have to sit through this move, and it ultimately got to my target. But I'm not even thinking about the trade at that point. Anything else you got on the metals, Coach?
It's interesting. The gold, if we look at the VWAP structure,
Hmm.
it's like a tight rope, right? There was,
Yeah,
we had an S shape in copper and silver. That's a tough trade. So I won't
yeah.
even look at it. If you can master silver, you teach me. I don't know. But interesting. This was that, you know, gold being a flight to safety. Um, that one was before the news was the was the strongest, and it held the strongest.
Yeah, it is
Very
interesting.
interesting. And then once the news came out, it broke. Further credence to buy the rumor,
Sell the
sell it
news
back.
and trade
Or in
the
our case,
technicals, because the news is
there
going to
you
do,
go.
the markets are going to do whatever they want. You might hear the best news ever and be surprised that the market is down 2%. Trade what the charts are telling you, because that's ultimately what we get paid for, right? Identifying the market reaction to it and then being a participant in it, and not trying to predict or have an opinion about where it goes. And back to that question of whether or not the market is always right, I think it is, because it's doing whatever it wants to do. Um, it's it's never wrong. Uh,
Let's look at the daily on the gold real quick.
okay, let's.
Oh, it's picking up steam. Okay,
Interesting.
now let's get a trend line from the top after you're
I'm gonna
done with.
I'm gonna full screen gold.
All right. From the highest price, let's get one right there, and then the next highest price. We're right on the trend line. Bring it up a little bit, actually. Oh, I can't see it that well. Oh yeah, you're good. Wow. I think I'm going to be watching gold closely tonight.
Looks like a good one. You're seeing somewhat of a reversal pattern here, Coach. Trying to look. So educate me here on this trend line,
Uh,
right? We're testing the trend line a couple of times. If I'm looking at this for potential, it's a downward trend line, right? So this is a market that's in a downtrend. When, if at all, do I take a trade in this if I'm looking to trade using a trend line?
All right. So the way I look at it is, it's longer term. We're
Hmm.
in a upward trend.
Okay.
Um, this can be defined as a correction. When does the correction end? Using trend lines. If we close above, and it's literally close, not just the price.
Okay.
If we close above the trend line, we've
On any
broken
time
the
frame
trend
or
on any time frame.
any time frame? Got you. Okay.
And also, you look for a correction back to the trend. Some people, classic, will look for a trend line coming back to touch it to verify.
Got you.
So we are still, you notice on that daily, as we broke, the ranges got smaller and smaller.
Yep.
That's almost a classic J trade there off the bottom, or a 3 bar reversal.
Hmm.
Um, so very friendly. Um, but that's projection. How am I going to trade it? Using the half hour. That's Um, First of all, it's above the 200 as we see there.
Oh yeah, that looks pretty good there.
Yeah. Um, at least using that half hour at the 200 yesterday, where you can cover. You don't have to be selling it the whole time. You
Right.
can. Well, I use it as this. I'm stop. I'm not looking to sell it, or I can use that to lean on to buy. Either way, whatever your preference is. Um, it didn't surprise me last night to see that rally. Oh,
This looks like, right, this was yesterday. This looks a lot like the equities charts that we just saw, right? Where we had the markets getting ready to test that 200 moving average, the 20 above the 50, and then starting to trend. I like this trade, coach. I think I'm going to be looking at gold as well. We got a question from Anuj, coach. What time
hmm
frame are you executing your trades on?
30-minute.
30-minute chart.
I am now. Whatever you're comfortable with. If
Right.
you are a 5-minute trader, use the 5-minute. I'm If I want to execute it on a day trade, I could use a 5-minute, 10-minute, and look. Let's just. We never look at the 10-minute. A salute to Tom Hugar.
We don't
Let's
have
look at it.
10-minute charts on Topstep X. We got 15.
Let's go to a 15 then.
All right. Here's a 15.
All right. We're above it. Let's look at a 5. Probably above that 200. No. Wow. So there we go. If you're looking to buy it using the 5-minute, the shorter term moving averages are above the 200, right? So when we go to test it and we got below it, and we're trading in there, that's a place that I would look to buy it.
Gotcha.
And using a risk management that you are comfortable with, I highly suggest looking at the average true range. Do not use the one or less average true range as your stop, because you're going like into that turbulence. If you bought it on the 200, you could get stopped out real quick and then be frustrated and lose control. So,
Right.
you know, trying to catch the wave is the basic idea.
100%. Let's see. If you guys have any questions for us, put them in the chat. I see some conversation going back and forth about trading styles and what markets you guys want to trade. Seems like we got some trading buddies in the chat, coach, which is what we like, uh, building out this community. But if you guys have any questions for us, let us know. Crude oil. Let's go over crude oil. We have not talked about crude oil. If we look at this on it looks like a choppy mess. Uh,
Isn't it always?
this
But
looks even worse.
yeah, but here we're eliminating, and even on the way down using that 200, it's just crude is. It's been a tough trade. Asking anyone for at least a lot of people I've talked to. Crude was not kind to me either today. But looking at this 30-minute, yeah, we broke through it yesterday, right? So let's look last night.
Last night's open here. It's a nasty looking day.
Yep. So, and this is key. I lost money in crude today. I didn't blow up. I wasn't looking on there in hindsight capital saying, wow, no wonder I lost money. It was choppy. That is classic choppy. And don't get me wrong, that's for my style of trading.
Yep.
But having those lows, highs right back, um, wicking. Yeah, I mean, any way you describe it, even if you got on a good trade, it really didn't give much of a range. So,
No.
the beating will continue until morale improves. Um,
The one thing I do want to point out in Crude, again, we had some of these headlines, and just remembering the times that we had those headlines out, 10:31 Eastern time, we had that headline that Iran was going to stop making bomb grade uranium, and this was this candle here. Coach, something we've talked about before is the sustainability of volume in a specific direction. And the only time I actually looked at crude oil today, I didn't trade it at all, but uh, was listening to Topstep TV on my way to the doctor's office, and I hear Andre say, "Wow, crude's really selling off here." And then looking at the chart, we had 12,000 contracts traded in a 3-minute candle, and if we look at the volume relative to anything else traded around there, that was at least 4 times the highest volume on a 3-minute chart. Anytime I see something like that, my mind goes to how sustainable is it? How sustainable is that volume? Right? It was sell side. What is the likelihood that we see continuation of volume this high? And the trade would be to fade it. Now, it's a, again, very scary trade to take, but that's where my mind went seeing this, right? If this was a more gradual sell off where we saw volume building like we saw in that NASDAQ sell off prior to the bounce, then I'd take it. But this exhaustion move, a lot of the time, sets a pretty decent trade in the opposite direction. Now, this would have been a scary trade to take, but that's why we manage risk. But it's a over a 1% move in crude oil in a 3-minute period. And it's not a trade that I take all the time, but again, we see it presenting an opportunity. And then even to the other side, right? We have another very high volume candle relative to everything else around it, and that setting a range. Right now, is there the potential to short around here? Again, scary trade. When I take one of these, I'll show the executions on it just to kind of talk you guys through that trade. But it's a very clean. I took one in Nat Gas about a month ago, where there was a random volume spike in Nat Gas, and it was 6 times more than any other volume around it. And it's like, okay, that's not going to hold up. And then just taking the trade, it's hard to kind of playbook and say exactly how you trade it, but it presents a decent opportunity. Um, Coach Hoop says he took the long. Um, so there's something there where, again, it's scary. A headline comes out, but just looking at the technicals, this volume, the likelihood of that sustaining just seems pretty low. Uh, Anything else you got on crude, Coach?
no, I need to wash myself of that crude, and try again tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. Will Rodden says, "Can we get 100 likes?" I think we can, Will. I think we can. Let's get 100 likes for Will. We got
Yeah,
860
bring it
people
on.
watching here. My bad, Will. I didn't like the video yet either. So I'm like number 90. 10 more. 10 more. Thank you everyone for joining. Of course, if you do like what you're hearing here, hit that like button. Tell your friends and family to subscribe. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, and give an assist to Coach Jay. His finger is damaged, so maybe we could get 100 people to help him hit that like button.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. My finger is. I trade on Quantower, and my ring finger is over the sell button because it's Shift S. So that's the finger I got to use to sell. So if all of my orders end up being buy side, you know why. Because it might hurt to sell in a couple of different ways, depending on the market that you're trading.
Hey, don't double hit that button.
No,
That's a double negative.
there you go.
Just
There we
hit it an odd number of times.
Odd number of times on that like button. Coach, any other markets that were interesting to you today? Anything else you want to talk about? Ah,
Um, well, see, more like button hits, please. Yeah, that one hurt. I could almost feel that from here.
yeah, that hurt.
How did you
Um,
not swear?
I did. I muted the mic.
Oh,
I muted them. I just hit my finger against my desk, guys. That shit hurt. All right. Any other markets? Let's look at micro Bitcoin,
uh,
coach.
micro Bitcoin, our friend. Um, kind of slow action today. But interesting. The low made last night on the opening held. I to the tick. I know why, because I had to stop literally one tick below it. Never got hit.
Nice.
Um, still looks positive. I kind of rallied up, kind of boring today. Um, good boring. No, um, yeah, but there wasn't much energy to it. It's like we're just gonna hit 100,000, and it looks to me the people who own it are pretty convinced to get hit 100,000.
It
I
looks
don't know
like it.
what other. It looks like it probably that's the kind of attitude that failures come from. um, I look at it daily.
All right. And speaking of rocket ships, we got a SpaceX launch happening in about 2 minutes, but let's pull up a daily. Let's see if Bitcoin takes off with SpaceX.
Nothing bearish there. 100,000 is just an ATM. Oh, wait, to the moon, to the moon, Alice. Boy, it looks like it's picking up steam too on a daily. That daily looks a lot more friendly. Um, lower, like higher lows. Um, yeah, I think no, I don't want to be short it, especially in front of that
Yeah.
rocket ship.
I agree. We made new all-time highs today, and then pulled off a little bit. 94,730 high on this futures contract. I didn't see what the spot price was, but somewhere it got to be somewhere around there. But yeah, not a market I want to short. Any pullbacks look like opportunities to get into the long side, um, and got to think that this 100,000 is going to act like a magnet, and maybe it's such a magnet that it repels price. But I don't know. I don't, I don't think so. Um, Very strong market here. Sturdy Gentleman says to think, and this is not a crypto stream, but to think summer Solana was at $40. Yeah, what is that? 250 now. Um, Crypto on the rise and not stopping anytime soon. It looks like. Uh, any other markets we want to discuss? We got about 15 minutes left. We kind of went through everything. I don't think I have too much else to discuss. Coach, oh, I got a question for you actually. So, um, we talk a lot about technicals and things like that. I actually had Anne Marie join the VIP session I did yesterday, and one of the questions that came up was, how she looks at taking payouts from accounts when eligible, and somewhat running your trading as a business, right? A lot of the times, I think the focus is on the technical aspect. Where's my perfect entry and stop for a trade and things like that. But when we're building accounts, and if we're looking to, ultimately pay ourselves from this, how do you approach that, right? If you're taking withdrawals from account, or if you're suggesting someone to build a balance in their Top Step account before they take a payout. Here goes SpaceX launching now. But how do you approach that, Coach? If someone asks you about payouts,
I well, first of all, get paid,
right?
and running it like a business. The way I look at it is, if you earn a payout, I would take 50% of it, and build it up. Give yourself that leaves room for some cushion.
Hmm.
If you're double it up again, pull 50% out again. But give you, I wouldn't take the whole payout.
Yeah.
I believe in building the account.
Okay.
Give yourself some room, but it's like there's a principle playing with house money. Um, take half,
Mhm.
leave half. If you double that, take half again. Now you're building an account and getting paid,
Yep.
um, which is running a business. If you're just and this is tough because I've run a fund before.
Mhm.
It's you there, you're uncertain of when you're going to get paid.
Right.
Nice thing here is you're going to get paid once you get it. At like running a fund, you might have to wait 3 months.
Hmm.
So part of that business was, okay, I need to run my business. There's expenses, right?
Right.
Whatever the expenses are for the next period. In this case, I'd say the month.
Okay.
Take If you're running it like a business, take out all those expenses. Get paid for your time at the least. Um,
Yeah, I think it's important.
and but one thing is just grabbing it and spending it. Um, and not leaving any cushion. Um, I don't think is a great idea. If we're gonna treat it like a business.
Yeah.
Um, the good thing here is expenses are for this
Fairly
business
low.
are fairly low.
Right.
Um, so yeah, as treating like a business, take it out. What I do is I take half of it, leave half. Um, what we mean by paying ourselves is you got to cover your costs.
Yep.
Um, if you're not in a prop firm, the costs are a lot more. Um,
Just in data fees that we might not be paying and
yeah, exchange fees,
exchange fees, right?
breathing fees. How about you, Coach?
No, but I agree with you, right? You do want to get paid for your time, especially if you haven't, if you know, if you have anyone in the audience who may be eligible for payout or close to it, and you haven't taken one yet. Uh, Realizing that money and seeing it hit your bank account for the first time, and maybe taking it and realizing it in your life somewhere. I told the VIPs yesterday, when I first started trading, was making money, losing money, making money, losing money, and really didn't have a purpose for it. Was just like, hey, I like doing this thing, and I'm making some money, but then I'm losing it. And a friend that I started trading with at the time, he said, hey, if you're able to make some money, why don't you take some of it out and do something with it in your real life, just so you can realize it. So when I was eligible, took the money out, and this is trading in a personal account, but took the money out and paid off a student loan with it. It was a student loan that I was making minimum payments on. I was like, I'm gonna pay this off for the next 20 years, or I could just take the money and pay it off now, right? And obviously not all of it. You save some for the tax man, but you know, taking that money and realizing it in your life, I think helps make what we're doing here more than just numbers on a screen. Um, and it makes you respect it a little bit more when you're able to do that. So uh, you don't want to think about like, oh, I had a bunch of losses in my personal account, so I need to make the money back to do that. I think start with ground zero wherever you're at in that account, and then whatever money you're making in it, have a plan for it, right? Whether it's a plan to take it out and fund your own personal brokerage account, whether it's a plan to take it out and pay a bill. It makes it more tangible than just the numbers passing by on a screen.
Great advice, Coach.
Right. I really got nothing else unless we
Well,
have any questions in the
yeah,
chat. Go ahead, Coach.
yeah, we have D to Sarah. Coaches, please clarify how the delta figures and also the MOC figures can be helpful in determining if a trade we should take be a buy or sell, although it's self-explanatory, these figures. First of all, I don't use it as a straight out buy or sell.
Hmm.
Um, it gives me, to me, a delta. If we're having that negative delta and the market's rallying, it's fuel on the fire. Why? As it goes higher, you get more sellers. The chances of it turning around are less. So those are, to me, are adjectives more than express the trade signals. As far as MOCs go, I don't want. I don't use it at all. How about you, Coach?
MOCs, I don't look at it at all. Delta, I look at a lot, actually, and I feel like we haven't talked about it so much, you know, since being out of Discord. But I look at Delta when I'm trading on a very short time frame basis, and it's just for me to get an understanding of what market participants are able to achieve with their trading. Right. So if I see positive Delta in a short time frame and the market is moving upwards, then I'm seeing that as successful buying, right? If I see positive delta and the market is kind of stalling out or moving downwards, then that's unsuccessful buying, right? And how does that help me frame out my trade? If buyers are successful and going to continue being successful, then I want to get in the flow with them. If buyers are unsuccessful, unsuccessful buyers eventually become sellers. So if I see buyers fail in those delta numbers at a specific price, then I'm going to want to go on the opposite side of those buyers. Hopefully that makes sense what I just said. I can pull up a. Go
You
ahead,
know,
coach.
while you're doing that, I'll go over one quick on MOCs.
Okay.
When I was a floor broker, MOCs were very important. What does it mean? Market on close. So why it was important? There's an imbalance on that MOC. So the market on close is the last minute of trading. So and that can change every time someone puts an order. It's fluctuating.
Right.
So just for instance, I might have 500 buys on market on close and 300 sells. So an imbalance of 200. All right. My locals, I would just turn around. Let's say Coach J is my favorite trader because he's always there for me. So
I
I'm
got you,
gonna,
coach. Always.
yeah. So I say, Coach J, I have five. I'm buying 500 at 10, and I'm selling you 300 at 5. Let's do some math. I just gave him 300 ticks,
Mm.
but he's got 200 in balance. He's got to get rid of, right? But he's got a 300 tick head start.
Okay.
So I leave it to him. Why that does it? That in a competitive pit, you might have 100 different brokers with MOCs, and it would just get wild. And in the atmosphere of electronic trading, there's no one there. One single, it's not competitive. So that last minute, the bigger that market MOC imbalances is, the greater the chance for volatility. I don't seek, since it's the last minute. And by the way, that can change at any moment. Like,
Yeah, we hear it when Eddie's announcing them, right? Sometimes it's 2 billion to the sell side S&Ps, and then 5 minutes later it's 750 million to the buy side. So they change, I think, as the orders are getting executed.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't help me now, but it would have helped Coach Jay back in the day.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't use it. Like Coach said, by the time, if I'm not already in a position, by the time MOCs are getting announced, is there really going to be an A plus setup for me to take in the last 10 minutes of the market? Probably not. And even if there is, am I in the right mental space to take it? Uh, I don't really use it as information. I was gonna pull up some Delta information, but I might save it for another day. Because it could be its own topic. It actually is its own topic on its own. We've done classes in Discord about this, so um, maybe I'll do that again because it is a different platform. It's not a Topstep X, so um, I think I'll do a class in Discord when we get some time on how I look at Delta in a short time frame. But I got nothing else, Coach. I'm gonna check my notes real quick just to make sure we're not missing anything. You got any final words before we go?
I had a good question, the sturdy gentleman. Y'all ever use accumulation distribution indicator? I used it. I used to use it on a daily chart. I haven't used it on a short-term chart, but if we have some time, we'll go over what accumulation distribution is, and also it's very similar to delta. Um, but I have used it only on daily charts. But we could spend some time on that if you remind us.
Yeah, I've never used it, but just looking at it real quick, I can see kind of what it's doing. And yeah, I would agree with you, Coach, on that. Looks very similar to cumulative delta.
So I'll make a note. We'll review that. Otherwise, everybody have a good evening or a good morning wherever you are. Keep your eye on the price. Batten down the hatches on your risk with talk of war around every 1 minute candle, and do well.
All right. Couple notes before we go. Will Rodden says we need 200 likes. Hit that like button. Also, you'll have a couple chances this week to get another early entry for Topstep VIP. This week we'll be dropping a VIP scouting check-in during the daytime show. Plus, on Friday, the top 25 winners of Top Quiz will be getting an entry. We're going to be drafting 10 new Topstep VIP teams in January. All Topstep VIPs are going to get 3 months in a trading combine, 2 free resets, access to Coach's Discord and events with your coach, and no activation fee once you pass that combine into an XFA. So look out for the check-in forms during the daytime show. Top Quiz is back on Fridays. I'm winning Top's Quiz this Friday. I'm putting it out there. Coming for the number one spot. But I can't get a VIP form, so I'll give it to whoever comes in second. Unless Eddie's doing the quiz because his questions are impossible. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Water fasting results says stay out of bad trades. Only take the good ones. If you find yourself in a bad one, make sure you manage your risk because we don't get to choose which ones are bad or good. Sometimes I feel like we do. But manage your risk either way because even on the good ones, they don't have to be winners. Trade well. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Have a great night. Coach, thank you as always.
Thank you. Get rest that finger, young
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.